Great job on your check-in last week, you guys, on Friday. So let's go ahead and look through some of the solutions here if you need some help making some corrections. So our first target here is on multi-step equations. So let's go ahead and solve this equation together. We're looking to solve for x. So the first thing we want to do here is get our x's together. So I always suggest moving the smaller x so that we don't deal with negative numbers. So to get rid of a positive 5x, let's go ahead and subtract 5x from both sides. 6x take away 5x's is 1x, plus 5 equals 10. Now our goal is to get x by itself, so we need to get rid of the plus 5 by minusing 5 on both sides, leaving us with x equals 5. Next problem here, we're solving for n. Now we need to be careful here because there's this minus sign right outside the parentheses. This does not mean we're distributing a negative 2. In fact, this might even help us to rewrite this first step, as this is kind of like a negative 1 outside of that parenthesis. So then, as we think about this problem, we're distributing this negative 1 to both pieces. So we'll have 2 minus 1n. Negative 1 times negative 21 is a positive 21. And on the right, 3n plus 15. From here, let's simplify what we can. We have 2 plus 21, so that gives us 23 minus n, and 3n plus 15 on the other side. Let's move our smaller n, get our n's together, so I'll do that by adding n on both sides, giving me 23 equals 4n plus 15. To get n by itself, let's minus 15 from both sides, leaving us with 8 equals 4n. To get rid of times 4, we'll divide by 4, and we'll come out with 8 divided by 4, n equals 2 for this second one. And question number 3, we had to write an equation and solve it. So we'll start with Devin here, Devin's situation. Devin paid $30 one time to be a member of this gym. When he takes a class, it costs him $2 for each of his classes. So since Devin could take multiple classes, we need that variable here with 2, because we don't know how many classes Devin's going to take. Now Jared is not a member, so Jared did not pay that $30, but Jared does pay now a little bit more, $5 per class. So now we want to know, when is this situation, when are these going to be equal? That's part 1. Now part 2 is solving this equation. So we'll subtract 2x from both sides, leaving me with 30 equals 3x. Get rid of times by 3 by dividing by 3. And we'll end up with x equals 10. And this stands for 10 classes is when these people, Devin and Jared, would pay exactly the same. So if they took anything less than 10 classes, you would want to go with Jared's situation and not be a member. If you took more than 10 classes, it would be cheaper to be a member in Devin's situation. And target number 2, literal equations. So this first one here, we want to solve for d. So we want d to be by itself, which means we need to get rid of a divide by r. So we're going to times by r on both sides, leaving us with d equals t times r, or we could say d equals r times t. Either order there doesn't matter. So we'll see that answer as our first one here. Our next one, we're solving for x. I'm going to circle my x. The first thing we want to do is get rid of a plus 4. So I'll go ahead and minus 4 from both sides, leaving me with y minus 4 equals 2x. To get rid of times by 2, let's divide by 2 on both sides. Now notice we have to divide the entire side by 2. So we could come out with a few answers here. We could have x equals y minus 4 all divided by 2. There's one example. We could also divide both pieces by 2. So y divided by 2 minus 4 divided by 2 gives us 2. So a couple different answers we could do for this piece. But the key here is that we need to divide this entire side by 2. And last one here. Okay, I'm going to do this 2 ways. Way number 1. To get rid of a times m, I'm going to divide by m at the very start. That leaves me with n plus 2 equals 6 divided by m. Now since my parentheses aren't doing much anymore, we can get rid of them, leaving us here. And to get rid of a plus 2, let's minus 2 from both sides. So way number 1, we end up with 6 over m minus 2. Now a lot of people went about this problem by distributing first, which will also work, but we need to kind of talk through these steps as well. A couple great ways we could do this. So let's distribute m to both places, giving us mn plus 2m equals 6. Now our goal is to get n by itself. So let's go ahead and subtract 2m from both sides. So now we have mn equals 6 minus 2m. Now, to get n by itself, we're going to divide the whole side by m, giving us n equals 6 divided by m. And then if we have 2m divided by m, my m's are actually going away, leaving us with just a minus 2. So my thoughts is this first way is probably the easier way to go about this, but the second way also works. We just have to be careful with that last step of dividing. Please reach out to me if you're feeling stuck on any of these 6 questions. I'd love to help you further.